So it's official, Mikel Arteta is the new head coach of Arsenal Football Club, and I know it's going to divide opinion massively. If you've been anywhere near Twitter in the past 48 hours, you'll have already seen how much debate has been had amongst this guy coming in and becoming the new head coach of Arsenal Football Club. But from a personal point of view, I'm elated. I'm so happy that this has happened. I really, really am excited about the prospect of what Mikel Arteta can do with this football club. And I think a large part of the reason I'm feeling that way is because it is so untested, it's so unproven. He's the youngest manager in the Premier League. There's no real good pointers as to why it should be something that's going to give me every single reason in the world to be excited, because I think a lot of these supporters that aren't necessarily on board with Arteta coming in are a lot more apprehensive than I am. And don't get me wrong, I'm very apprehensive about what could go wrong. But I think the way he speaks, his charisma, he really does strike me as a very intelligent person. And I think he's going to be excellent at this football club. I really, really do. Now, I could eat my words because I'm just basing it off of how he speaks in press conferences, his time at the club. And I don't know any more than you do, to be honest, because unless we're the ones interviewing him, unless we're in there with the training ground, at the training ground seeing him every single day, then we don't know how he is as a person. But the way he commands himself, I think he's going to be excellent. I really think he's a real coup for Arsenal, and there were going to be so many clubs sniffing around him in the summer. Of course, we had interest in him 18 months ago. He's had these 3.5 years under Pep Guardiola. He's so highly rated in the world of football. I think there has to be a reason why Arsenal made this decision, and I think it's got to be because he's got all the credentials to be the man at Arsenal Football Club. And I think he said it himself in the press conference, he wouldn't have made this call if he didn't feel ready, and he is so confident in himself, he's so confident in his own ability. He seems to ooze class, ooze authority, and I think he's going to be an excellent, excellent leader at this football club. And he needs patience and perseverance because he is, of course, incredibly young. He's 37 years old, and he's got a lot of learning to do. It's going to take time for him to adapt to being the one that's at the top of the tree rather than second fiddle. And of course, we know that he had such authority at Manchester City as well. There have been moments where we've seen how he's influenced games with Pep Guardiola, so I'm excited to see how he's going to take control of that, how he's going to have to deal with personalities, because this is a team that is thriving with personalities. You've got someone like Mesut Ozil who is not afraid to speak his mind on topics such as China on social media. How do you qualm that? How do you rein someone like him in who isn't necessarily overly happy in the way this season has gone for him? How do you deal with someone like Aubameyang who wants to supposedly leave the club? How do you get him firing on all fronts and committing his future until the summer at least? On that topic, if he wants to go, then I've got no problems with him leaving in the summer, because I think we've completely had enough of players that are so egotistical that just want to not really serve a purpose at the club. And I'm not sure that he's of that mindset. I'm not putting him in the same bracket as someone like Samir Nasri, for example, but I think if he wants to go, then his head's not here, and we should look to move him on as soon as possible, because this is a rebuilding process, and if these players are to go, then I think we're in a good-ish situation to let them go. I know that sounds crazy, but if we are rebuilding the team, then getting funds in to invest into the rest of the squad isn't necessarily a bad thing in my opinion. But I maintain, as I've said this season, we've got a very talented squad, and it's the mentality within the team, it's the confidence, which has been a big issue, and lining these players up correctly has been a constant issue. We've seen so many chops and changes out throughout the season, and I really hope Arteta can get everyone singing from the same hymn sheet, dancing to the same beat of the drum, because I really think he's got that charisma to get the best out of this team. Such an emotional guy. You could tell in his press conference, overly delighted to have got this job, and it feels like such a good fit for him, for the club. As I say, it's also unpredictable, but there's got to be a reason why so many people talk about him so highly, and I think that's because he has got the ability to take a club like Arsenal and get them back to where they need to be. It's not going to be an easy job, because he couldn't be taken over at a worse time, but maybe that's why he's taken over, because he relishes that sort of challenge. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited, and I think you've got every reason to be as well. I think it's worth talking briefly about the supporters on social media that have been so vocal in their displeasure with Arteta being named manager. There's been some, I think, borderline disgraceful posts on Twitter, to be honest, with people saying that they're not going to support him, that he's a terrible choice. Someone has taken the time to make a graphic saying we don't support Arteta, stuff like that. I just think, what are you trying to achieve? The alternative to Mikel Arteta was, of course, Carlo Ancelotti, who is seemingly poised to join Everton. And then you've got people like Nagelsmann, Klinsmann, people like this that people are talking about who are only a few years ahead of Arteta in terms of their careers. They're still very, very young in a league that's completely different to the Premier League. At least Arteta has experience from a player's perspective and an assistant coach perspective in the Premier League. So I think he's already got credentials to come in and do a job. Whereas those managers who have only managed in Germany, for example, don't have that experience. So I think, it's all ifs and buts, and it's just like politics. Nobody is going to be happy with whoever we choose. I wouldn't have been inspired by Ancelotti. Great CV, amazing footballing CV, but I look at him, just looking at him, I'm not inspired. He doesn't really have an aura about him. He's been sacked by Napoli, which I don't think is a good precedent to set going into a job at Arsenal. He's never really been in charge of a club where there has to be such a massive rebuilding structure. And I just don't think he would have been the right option for where the club is at the moment. And he's only stayed at clubs for very short stints, so I don't think he'd have been the right choice. And I can appreciate the arguments for other managers like Nagelsmann, like Klinsmann, but I really think the club have been bold. They've made a decision. They've been brave, and I don't think it's a case of the club just having another yes man, another puppet. I do think that, whilst Arteta is going to have to adhere to certain things that the people above him are saying, I think he very much is his own man. He's got his own beliefs, and if I don't really care about the finances, the transfers just yet. I just want to see good football, and if he can instill that at the club, then we can talk about the transfers, things like that later on. But this is a massive opportunity for him, for the club. I really respect the club being brave and made this call, but I am excited, and I think it's with a view to the long term and with a view to someone that can really get this club back to where it needs to be, starting afresh, starting new, massive rebuilding job. As I say, I think you've got to give him at least these 6 months towards the end of the season to turn things around, to get us playing better football. I think I'm not counting too much hope on top 4, but a run in the FA Cup would be great, a tournament that he's won twice with Arsenal. So I'm excited about what he can do. I can't reiterate that enough, and I think you've got every reason to be just as excited as I am. Looking forward to tomorrow's game against Everton. I know he's not going to be taking charge of that, but Freddie, pressure's off him now. So should be an exciting game. It's interested to see how the players react, interested to see what he's going to do with someone like Mesut Ozil, with someone like Aubameyang. If he's going to have an influence on how we are at the back, because we're dreadful at centre-half at the minute, if he's going to have some sort of good, rigorous defensive plan as well. So yeah, excited to see how it unfolds, and I'm looking forward to that game against Chelsea in a week's time. That'll be really, really tasty. But on that note, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Drop a like on the video as well. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and as always, I'll speak to you very, very soon. See you later, guys.